Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sarah Jones. This is another fixture in our Sunday Minisode series where I talk to you about your ghost stories. For this Minisode, I got to speak to Emma from Portland, Oregon about some chilling experiences she had while working at the Oaks Park amusement park that turned her into a believer. Here's the call.
Hello?
Hello. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm doing great.
That's awesome. What are you up to right now?
I am sitting in my hammock enjoying the sun.
Oh my God. Yes, you are, girl. Get it. That's amazing. Okay.
Yep.
So for listeners, we already know each other. We used to work together.
We were phlebotomists. We trained together too.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. We did. We are
Yep.
professional stabbers.
Yep.
Technical term.
Professional vampires.
Yes. Professional vampires. How is the lab going lately?
Oh, it's been great.
Oh, good.
I love the team I'm with right now, so
Oh, awesome.
things are good.
We'll have to talk about it in more detail when we're not recording.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. So you have a ghost story for me. Is that correct?
Yes, I've got a couple from when I worked at Oaks Park.
Okay, and so for those who don't know, what is Oaks Park?
So Oaks Park is an old amusement park. It's a little amusement park in Southeast Portland. It's been around for close to 120 years now, so it's got a lot of history behind it.
Yeah.
And most of my stories are from when I worked at the dance pavilion there. The dance pavilion is a venue where they do like weddings and company parties and big events like that. And it's the old skating rink. So the new skating rink was built in like the 40s or the 50s, but this one was built in the 1920s.
Okay.
So it's an old repurposed building.
So it's but you said it's like a dance room. What is it now?
It's it's an event space. So they do like weddings and sometimes there's dances and company parties, quinceañeras, along those lines.
Okay, that makes sense. And you said it was the original skating rink and now it's been repurposed. Is that right?
It's been repurposed, yet, but it still has the original floors. It's got the hardwood floors with all the dance lines for the dance skating still marked on it.
Okay. Yeah, I could totally visualize it. That's what I want. I just wanted to like see what we're talking about. Because for the record, for listeners, I tried to get into Oaks Park to do an episode there because there are a ton of stories about that place being super haunted, right?
Yep, there's lots and lots of stories.
There's tons of stories. And they were absolutely not having it because it's like a place for kids. And I think they just were like, no, let's not talk about it.
Yeah, they don't let really anyone in there to do it. Even like big ghost hunting shows have tried before. So
yeah, they want nothing. They actually sent me like a short but sweet but like curt message that was like, we do not talk about ghosts or anything paranormal about the Oaks Park. And I was like, oh shit. That kind of like makes it sound even more haunted. Like you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, I don't think they like to admit how haunted it is, but
that's amazing. So let's see. So you said you have a couple stories.
Yeah,
what
I do.
What do you normally lead with?
So what I usually lead with is that I did not believe in ghosts at all until I worked there. Okay. I always thought that there's always some other explanation for it. Never saw one, never really believed in it. And then I worked there and I had a couple things happen. And then now I'm like, yep, okay, ghosts, they're a thing.
Oh, that's a thing that occurs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical, I think. Like, most people don't really believe in it until they've experienced something.
Yeah. So the first thing that happened to me there was when I actually saw our dance pavilion ghost. We call her Jessie. And I was behind the stage. They have a little like sound stage. And I was behind there setting up some equipment behind the curtain. It was all dark. And I look over and I see like a tall, like misty white figure of like a woman standing on the other side. And I kind of looked for a second. I looked back and I did double take and she wasn't there, but I definitely saw her. And then I talked to some of my other coworkers. They're like, oh yeah, that's Jessie. We called her Jessie, our dance pavilion ghost.
Why do they call her Jessie?
I don't know. I think it's just a nickname from the other employees. I don't know if it's actually based on the person we think it might be. There's a couple of older people who've worked there for a long time. One's one of the nighttime security guards, who I worked closely with. He is a big avid ghost hunter. And he believed that it was the original owner's wife because the skating rink there, I guess, was one of her favorite places, and kind of one of their pet projects was building the skating rink there. So we think it might have been the original owner's wife.
And that's where she's always seen?
Yeah, in the dance pavilion.
Okay.
So that's the dance pavilion ghost. We call her Jessie. Whenever anything small, even if it was our fault, like happened there, like a fork would go missing, we'd always be like, oh, it's Jessie. Jessie got us again.
Yeah.
So I saw her and I talked to other people and they're like, oh yeah, we've seen her too. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks, but whatever. Because I still didn't really fully believe in ghosts.
Sure.
The next thing that happened was months later, I was setting up for a wedding and it was just me and the mother of the bride and a caterer that had just arrived. And we were back in the kitchen, and the kitchen has this big wall that separates the kitchen from the rest of the room. So I'd locked all the doors, and gone back in the kitchen to talk to these people. And previously, right before that, we had been setting up these centerpieces, which are like giant, 1.5 foot tall wine glasses with candles in the middle. So we had set all those up and lit a bunch of them. And then we went back in the kitchen to talk. When I come back out from around that wall, the table that's closest to us, the wine glass centerpiece was still upright, but the candle from it was about 3 feet away from the table on the floor with the hot wax splattered on the ground.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So by the splatter, did it look like it had been like could you almost see the trajectory from it? I know you're not like a forensic scientist.
It looks like it had kind of been tossed from the table, It was a couple feet away, and it looks like, the wine glass had tipped over and it had spilled off the table, but the wine glass was still standing. And we didn't hear a crash or anything, so the wine glass didn't fall and break or any of that.
Whoa.
So that was a weird one.
Yeah. I'm still game. Like, is that it?
Yeah. No, that's not it.
You're like, so isn't that weird? Bye.
Yeah. The weirdest thing that happened to me, though, so I'm sure you know of all the lore and everything around like Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, which is the day after Halloween.
Yeah, the window is open and like spirits can come out, that kind of deal.
Yep. Yeah. Where like the worlds are closest and ghosts are more likely to walk around.
Yeah.
So I was closing an event that was day after Halloween on Day of the Dead. It was a big Halloween party and I was closing alone. So everyone had left. All the other staff, all the event people had left. The only other person in the park was our other nighttime security guard. And he'd come in and he'd said, hey, I'm going to be going and hanging out in the skating rink that's all the way on the other side of the park. And he said he'd radio me if he needed anything, or I could call him if I needed him. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Earlier that night, a homeless lady had come in. She'd been asking for food or anything, and, we didn't have anything, so I had to turn her away. But that night when I was taking out the garbage, I made sure to double check all the doors, make sure everything was locked just in case she was trying to come in and rifle through anything. And we had a door on the side that's kind of sticky and doesn't like to close all the way. So that one I made like 100% sure was closed. And I made sure it was closed behind me when I'd left to take the garbages out. So I take the garbages out. I'm walking down the park. We have to walk kind of across the park and through the employee building to get to the dumpsters. And the employee building has dingers on the doors. So I go in through the first door. The dinger goes off when I go in. The dinger goes off when the door closes behind me. And I walk partway across the room and the dinger goes off again. And I look back and the door is still closed.
No.
Yeah, it is. And the dinger went off again. So I walked through the second door that also had dingers. The same thing happened. I got that third ding.
Weird.
Yeah. So at that point, I was kind of.
Was the dinging sound, was that like to suggest that someone was like walking underneath like a sensor kind of a deal?
I think it was like a door sensor. Like, you know how like alarm systems have the dingers when the doors go off. So I don't know if it was a motion deal or if it was the door, but the door definitely didn't move.
Weird.
Since I'd moved. So yeah, something.
It's like when you open a door and it's like ding, like when you unlock a door, is that usually what it is? That type of deal? Okay.
Yeah, that same kind of ding. So it happens again through the second door that actually goes out through the dumpsters. And at that point, I'm feeling pretty weird. I'm like, oh, there's someone following me. So I kind of run back across the park because it's like 3 a.m.
Right.
And
the witching hour.
Yep. I run back across the park. I get to the dance pavilion, and the door that was sticky, but that I triple checked was locked. It was still locked, but it was ajar. It was open like 3 inches.
No way.
But it was still locked. And I checked inside.
How?
I made sure.
How was it still locked? Was it like a padlock?
I don't know.
Or like a.
Yeah, it's like a deadbolt.
Oh, wait, what? So you're saying like the machine said it was locked even though it was open?
No, it was like a manual deadbolt, you know, like the big one that you switch to go over. Yeah. And it also had the handle lock.
Uh-huh.
So when I get back to the building, both of the locks are still locked, but the door's open. Like you can see the deadbolt still out. It didn't look like anyone broke in. Nothing was broken on the door.
Whoa.
And no one was in the pavilion. Nothing was missing, you know, none of that.
Yeah. So it's like the deadbolt, like the bar from the deadbolt was like against the wall. Cause like what my brain isn't understanding is how the deadbolt was locked, but the door was still open a little bit.
That's what I don't understand either. That's why I thought that, I didn't think it was someone breaking in because there was no sign that like the deadbolt was ripped out. So, I don't know.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. That's where I'm thinking like, oh, this might have been one of our ghosts doing it. But that was by far the weirdest thing that happened was the door and those dingers going off on me.
So was it the night the night of the dingers?
Yes.
Was it that night that you started to go, I believe in ghosts, or was it after you saw the woman?
After I saw the woman, I started to slightly believe about it, but it was after the candle. After I saw the candle tipped over, that's where I was like, okay, that's something weird happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's like when you saw, like, because I have physically seen a ghost too. And it's that feeling of like, is that a ghost? Like, is that what I'm seeing? Like, it's a weird thing that like your brain, like, you obviously understand the concept of it, but your brain has to like wrap around like what you're looking at.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that you have to do that kind of double take in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's funny to me is that physically seeing a ghost still didn't convince you. It was like the strange experience of the candle that was like, this is something.
Yeah. I almost had to see something physical for it to really affect me. And, I only got a very brief glimpse of her when I saw her.
Right. So it could be just anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you remember any stories that anybody else told about working there that really stuck with you after you had accepted, like, okay, this is real?
I don't have any like solid like stories, but I can tell you a little bit of the other ghosts that are in the park because I know of the other ones. I haven't seen them do anything.
Okay. Gotcha.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's lots of other ghosts in the park. I'm pretty sure I've seen some in the event grounds. So the dance pavilion where I was at the south side of the park. And right next to that side of the park starts into just like an open event ground where they have like picnic tables. They do like charity walks, things like that over there.
Yeah.
And there's there's always been people saying that there's ghosts that walk back in that part of the park. And that part of the park, back when it was a really old amusement park, used to have more events and rides and things like that back there.
Okay.
So there's ghosts back there. I'm pretty sure I've seen them walk by the windows, again, late at night, because I did a lot of closing events where I'd be there until like 3 or 4 in the morning. And And, I'd see figures walking past the windows, and then I'd look outside and around the building, and there was no one out there. And security was already emptied out the park. So I think that's probably what I saw was the other ghosts that are kind of outside in the park.
Yeah.
I know that people have said that there are 2 different ghosts on the carousel. We've got a very old carousel. I don't know exactly how long it's been there, but it's been there forever. And people have said there's 2 different ghosts on there that'll make, the lights do weird things. And sometimes the night the lights will turn on.
What'd you say the first thing before you said the lights will turn on? The white skewer things?
White skewers.
I think I heard you completely wrong. You're like,
the lights will like flicker.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what you said that I thought you said that, but
that's okay.
Yeah. So it's like kind of that classic haunting type feeling of like followed and being watched.
Yeah, definitely.
Do they know if the ghosts on the carousel are like children or?
I don't know. The one child ghost I do know of, and I've heard this from a lot of the ride operators and also the nighttime security people, is that there is a ghost of a young boy, and people say he's between like 5-7 years old, dressed in like 70s clothes that'll run up and down the midway, which is the big, just concrete stretch of pavement that runs along the park where everyone walks. And people say they'll see him running on one side of the park, and then he'll just disappear, and you can see him continue running down the other side.
Oh.
And that he just kind of runs back and forth.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, I love it here.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's like, how old is he about? Do you know?
People said he's between like 5 and 7.
Aw.
Yeah, so a little
cute.
boy. So I hope if, he's there, he's in his happy place,
Right.
Yeah.
So none of the ghosts really seem angry from what you've mentioned so far.
Not from what I've heard. I haven't really heard any negative stories about it. The only thing I've heard about them like moving something has been that candle that I experienced.
Yeah.
But they weren't like throwing them at anyone.
Right.
So.
And even then it's not like, it doesn't seem like an aggressive act. It's kind of just like, hey, look what I can do.
Yeah. But it doesn't really surprise me. It's a very happy place and there's a lot of good energy there. Yeah. So I can imagine if there's ghosts hanging out there that they're happy to be there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, and sometimes I think like it's possible that the spirit on the other side is trying to communicate with us. And one of the ways that they do that is by moving things. To be like, okay, I keep trying to talk to you. That's not working. I'm trying to get you to see me. You're not seeing me. Here, I'm going to take this candle and put it on the floor. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
And like the energy, like maybe that's like, I feel like there's so many stories about like, oh, a door slammed or like a drawer opened and shut. And like maybe they feel like you have to push so much energy in. Because first of all, if something little happens, we don't even notice,
Yeah, exactly.
And second of all, maybe it's just like this outburst of energy that's like, hear me, like, and then it works,
Yeah.
I'm always interested to think about like what causes spirits to want to do that. Like, why do they want to communicate with you?
Yeah.
Could just be because you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the one other ghost I've heard about actually doing something in the park too is the ghost that's in the skating rink, the newer skating rink.
The new one. Okay.
Yeah, it's been around since like the 50s. But it's got an old organ. It's still got like a organ. We have an organ player come in on Sundays and they still do organ music. Mm-hmm. But I've heard from the nighttime security guard that every now and again he'll be able to hear organ music in the middle of the night from the skating rink. So they think a ghost is going in and playing an organ.
Oh, that's spooky.
Yeah,
like
that's very classically spooky.
I was going to say that's very Phantom of the Opera, and I love it.
Yeah.
Phantom of the roller rink. Oh, that's the new title for this minisode. Done.
Done.
Easy. Wow, I love it when that happens. So like you kind of talked a little bit about your theory about why you think the spirits are there I guess you said you don't know why, but if they are, that they're probably positive.
Yeah.
Since that how long ago was this that you worked there?
I worked there until the winter before I started working with you.
Oh,
So it was probably 4 years ago.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So these things were happening maybe like 5 years ago.
Okay. So it's only really been the last 5 years of your life that you've been like, you know what? I believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
So I know you already. So I know that you're an analytical person.
Yep.
Since then, I'm interested to hear what are some of the theories that you have come up with for yourself about, or have you at all thought about why are there spirits here? Why are there some spirits somewhere and not somewhere else? Why doesn't everyone come back as a spirit, or do they? Like, have you had any kind of
Yeah. Well,
insights on that?
I've thought a lot about it. My old roommate, she was Wiccan, and she was very into ghosts. And I can also share one more story, not related to Oaks Park, about the only haunted item that I've ever come across.
Oh, awesome.
That I have.
Love it.
But yeah, my kind of theory about it is that I think that, everything's made up of energy of some sort or matter, and they're kind of interrelated. And the universe, like one of the main rules of the universe is nothing is created or destroyed.
Right.
And so I think whatever the force or energy is that makes us, what people call a soul, or, even like remnants of the electromagnetic stuff that happens in our brains to give us consciousness.
Yeah.
I think that that energy isn't necessarily lost when people die, that it's sometimes, maybe rearranged and transferred into a different person. I do believe in reincarnation to an extent, or, into a ghost, that energy kind of lingers in some kind of form. And that's kind of what ghosts are, is that energy interacting with our physical world.
Do you think that if going off of that theory, if that is like energy, do you think that has consciousness, or do you think it's more of like an imprint?
I think it's more of an imprint. I think it's more of like a kind of like a shadow, or a reflection of how that energy, interacted when the person was alive. You hear a lot of stories about ghosts that kind of walk the same paths that they did when they were alive, or like if a house, like a really old house, is haunted and it's been remodeled and walls have been moved around, like the ghosts will walk through walls, but it's because they're following like the original floor plan. Right. Like where they used to walk. And so I think it's just kind of a reflection of where that energy was before.
So from that, do you not necessarily believe that ghosts would try to communicate with people, that instead that they're more like just kind of left over, like what you were saying, like a shadow?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it's open to interpretation. I don't know enough about it to really be able to form a solid opinion.
Like, I never thought of it the way you were just talking about walking through walls, and how it's like, oh, but the original floor plan, like, this part was open. So they, they don't see that. Yeah. I mean, that is a really good example. I think it's possible, but that there's a ton of stuff going on that we don't know. I think it's possible that the imprint is a thing. And I also think it's possible that there are spirits that are conscious and are trying to communicate with people, because I've heard stories of it,
Yeah, and I could definitely see that happening as well.
Yeah, like both could be true, that it could be like, well, this is a thing, but then also this is a thing. And, I'm just always interested to hear like what other people's impressions are, because that's how you learn is you just hear what, and then nobody knows. So it's more fun to just explore anyway. Yeah. So what about the haunted object?
Okay, so as I was saying, my old roommate, who's my best friend all through high school, she was Wiccan, very, very big believer in ghosts and spirits and the supernatural. She had acquired, it's probably the creepiest thing I own, and that's saying something because I own a lot of creepy things, but it's a baby doll head that's painted like a clown. We had a big tradition of giving each other clowns for Christmas.
Oh, I think you told me about her before.
Yeah, for years we gave each other clowns for Christmas.
Yeah.
So I've got a little baby doll head that's painted like a clown. And she
That's
had acquired
horrifying,
it.
Emma.
Yeah, I know. I love him.
You do.
She had acquired him from a friend's mom who was also very much into like the magic kind of stuff like that. And she had said that she'd messed around, like, from what she said, like darker, like black magic stuff where she's actually trying to like summon spirits and things like that. And that this little head is haunted. I was like, okay. And when I got it, I still wasn't a very big believer in the whole ghost thing. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know, I like it.
Yeah.
Couple years later, it was just sitting up on my mantle in my old apartment, which is a, you know, kind of an open floor plan. So the kitchen is just like a little corner of the living room. So you can see the TV mantle from the kitchen. And this little clown head has always been just facing forwards out into the living room. And I'm down there alone. My roommate's at work, had been at work all day. And I'm doing dishes. And I kind of feel that like feeling where you get when someone's watching you. Mm-hmm. And so I looked around to see if like my parents had come down from upstairs because my parents lived above me in this apartment. And no one was there, but the clown head had turned and was looking directly at me.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was.
Not.
So I was a little bit freaked out.
Yeah.
But this was right before like Christmas time. And so I looked at it and I talked to it some too, thinking like, if there's a ghost in there, I might as well be friendly with it.
Right.
But I talked to it and I was like, you know, it looks like you want some attention. So I ended up making it the topper for my Christmas tree.
Oh my God.
I'll show you a picture at some point.
Oh God, I'm gonna throw up.
It was very cute. I put a bow around its neck.
If you send me a picture, even if it's of the tree, great, or even just of the haunted baby head, clown baby head, I'll put it up on the website.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely send you a picture.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like what a terrible thing.
Ever since I did that, it has not messed with me at all, especially moving into my new house. I haven't noticed it do anything weird. But I just, you know, I talked to it, I gave it some attention, and I said, if something's in there, here, I'm going to kind of make you a little centerpiece, but don't fuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't need that in my life.
Not at all.
But yeah, so that's my haunted clown head.
That is absolutely awful. That's the worst.
I mean, we exchanged clowns for Christmas for so long, and we always got them usually at like Goodwill, so like little old weird clown figurines. So we were bound to run into a haunted one at some point.
Of course you were. And honestly, I just remembered how I already knew about this girl.
Yeah.
Remember how we started? Well, I didn't start it. Mark and Crystal started that inside joke that you were
that I was a juggalo.
Clown Posse fan.
Oh yeah, because of the OkCupid Juggalos page.
Well,
which if any of the listeners find it, it is the funniest thing.
Oh, I'm
in the
sure
world.
it is. I think I've seen, the OkCupid, they're all juggalos. And then, so basically for listeners that give a shit, because I'm sure everyone's like, who cares about your inside joke? But it doesn't matter. So basically they had started teasing Emma and saying, oh, you're a juggalette. You're a little juggalette. And they told me about it and I thought it was funny as hell. So I texted Emma pretending like I didn't know it was a joke. And I said, hey, is it true that you're a juggalette? And she was like, no, what the fuck? And then your friend got you a juggalo something, some ICP related item. And and you posted it on Facebook and I commented and said, I knew it.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
That's how I knew about Clown Girl. Okay. Now we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Especially the listeners.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so fucking nuts. So how long have you had the haunted baby head?
Probably 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years. And the only thing it's ever done was turn and look at you that one time.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Awful. Awful.
But that, I kind of I tried to appease, the spirit that won Christmas. So I think after that, it's been happy.
I was like, you know what? That was really thoughtful of you.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought about too is like, I originally thought of the spirit as like being trapped inside of the baby head. So it's like looking out of the baby's eyes.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, that doesn't really make much sense because the eye part would just be like glued to the front. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to see out of it. So then I realized how sinister it was too, that creature recognized the face of this item and moved it knowing how you would react to it. Like there's like theory of mind put into it,
Yeah.
And that is what kind of creeps me out about it.
Yeah. And that's where, we can start getting into the whole conscious spirit aspect of
exactly.
things.
Yeah. So like, exactly. Like that to me seems like it is a intentional conscious act.
Yeah.
Probably.
Or it was a very scary accident.
Yes. It sounds like we should have your Wiccan friend on.
Oh, I was actually going to say I'll talk to her because she has some really good ghost stories. She grew up in a very, very haunted house.
Great.
And she has a lot of experiences. She has a spirit, I guess, that follows her around from like house to house. And when she was living with me, I'd see, like the shadows out of the corner of my eyes, never like really seeing anything, but, having more of a kind of presence there. And then when she left, it went away. So it's definitely something following her around.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But it seems like
seems like
she loves it. Like
she loves it. And she, dabbles in a lot of that stuff. She's, I've been with her when she's done like house cleansings and stuff like that. Cause she, tries to understand it and tries to, she's really in tune with it. I really believe that some people are much more in tune with those things than others.
Sure.
I've never really considered myself very in tune with it at all. Yeah. And I think it took a place as haunted as Oaks Park for me to actually experience it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she'd be a good person to get in touch with. I can give you her information later.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk to her.
She's also a great person. I love her to death.
Well, clearly. I mean, and if you love her, I'm sure I'll love her too.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this call with me. It was really, we've been meaning to do it for like 2 years.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got a chance. We've only had to schedule it how many times because I've been hungover?
At least 30. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, every time you're hungover, I'm like, me too. It's going great.
Yeah, it's because we always go for a Sundays.
Yep, that's right. Yep. That's right. So happy Sunday, listeners. I hope you're not too hungover. And that I hope you enjoyed this horrifying story. Honestly, what stuck with me most was the clown head one.
Yeah.
And that was like, you're like, oh, I have this other little thing I guess I could mention. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's a scary
Yeah, I didn't even think about mentioning it before we got on the phone.
Well, I'm glad you did because it's going to keep me up all night.
Good.
I already, whatever we said earlier when I was like, oh, perfect. That's the new title of this minisode. Now I'm like, oh, I just don't know though. We'll figure it out.
All right.
Well, hey, I will talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your
Talk
Sunday.
To you soon, Sarah.
Or just
Thank
kidding,
you.
Monday.
You too. Yeah, it is Monday. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for your call, Emma. Your creepy baby clown head is the absolute worst. Do you have a ghost story that you want to share on Laughing in the Dark? Write us and let us know. Send in your story to litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. We may want to feature you on the show. Thanks so much for listening.